Hey, hello. I am back and we're gonna do impromptu again. I'm gonna get a quote and we're gonna do a speech. 13 cough drops. That's how many I had before I went into the audition room to audition for the Old State Choir. Now, I get seasonal allergies sometimes, so my throat feels a little dry in the autumn, and that's when this audition was. But I was really nervous. I stepped in anyway, and then I stepped out, waited a couple of months. I made it. I did it. I got into the Old State Choir somehow. And part of that is just because I really wanted to get into it and I worked for it. I practiced the piece. And that brings us to today's quote. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. From Marty McFly in Back to the Future. So to me, this means that if we just set our mind on something and we decide that we are going to work for this, then we're pretty likely to succeed. And my evidence for this is the film Mean Girls, the film Legally Blonde, and the author Oscar Wilde. Now, to begin, we have Mean Girls. Mean Girls follows Katie Heron as she moves from Africa to America and goes to school for the first time. Now, Katie Heron enters this new environment and she thinks that she needs to conform to that environment. She needs to get with the popular people, the plastic. She needs to get with Regina George. And she also needs to give up math because she needs to conform to what other people think is cool. And eventually she realizes that she doesn't have to give up math and she doesn't have to choose what other people want. She can choose what she wants. She can choose Janice and Damien as her friends instead of Regina and instead of Karen and Gretchen. And one quote from the movie that really exemplifies this is, "The limit does not exist," which is the answer to the math problem that saves the game for the mathletes team and causes success for her. And it shows that any amount of success can happen if we just set our mind to it, because the limit doesn't exist. We can reach as high as we want. Now, moving forward, we also have the film Legally Blonde, which is another success story. Legally Blonde follows Elle Woods as she moves all the way from California to Harvard Law. And when she decides, she sets her mind that she is going to go to Harvard Law School, people don't really believe in her because she's a fashion marketing major. Why would she go to law school? Even though she already does have a 4.0, and people tell her, you have to get at least a 175 on the LSAT. But she gets a 179 because she set her mind to it and she decided that she would study and that she would be successful so that she could go to law school and follow her ex-boyfriend, Baron. And eventually she realizes that she loves law in and of itself. And she wants to become a lawyer for real. And she wants that to be what she does because she finds a passion for it, just as she has a passion for fashion. And she realizes that her passions work together. She doesn't have to choose one or the other because she can set her mind to both. And her knowledge of fashion solves the case for her. And knowing that ammonium thioglycolate in hair curling, perming, causes the hair to straighten back if you get it wet too soon, that solves the case because the murderer, the person who had committed the crime, claimed to be taking a shower, but her curls were still intact the day that she got the perm. And that didn't really make sense. Now, moving forward, we also have Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was a late Victorian author, and he did experience a lot of criticism, and he was eventually even locked up for his identity and for his being queer. And that obviously shows that sometimes people don't like what you do. People didn't like his art. His novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, got a lot of bad reviews when it was published, but it still persists as a work of classic literature today, and so do a lot of his plays, from Salome to, most famously, The Importance of Being Earnest and Lady Windermere's Fan. And this really shows that Oscar Wilde had set his mind on being an author and being a writer, and that choice brought him success. It brought him to being a well-acclaimed writer. And that really illustrates our quote, along with Legally Blonde and along with Mean Girls, that if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, from Marty McFly in Back to the Future. And as we've already seen through my story, even though I did have a scratchy throat and I needed 13 cough drops, I still made it because my mind had been set. And your mind can be set. You can set your mind to something and you can choose to go after it. You can choose to go for it. And I think that that is a good choice to make. Thank you. Okay, I try to use like evidence that I haven't used on this channel before, but part of Impromptu is that you can repeat evidence. You just don't want to too much, because if you get the same judge twice, they'll know that you're repeating evidence often. But sometimes media works, authors work, historical figures work for multiple arguments, and that's okay. Doodles.